Hello and welcome to another episode of the Basketball Enthusiast. Hope you guys are doing well today. Today we're going to speak about the playoffs. We're going to talk about um, teams trying to copy the style of the Warriors um, um, teams, and also backup centers and the Lakers and bad seasons. Okay, so basketball enthusiasts, you could take it off. First question is the playoff show. Is it real contenders or pretenders? What do you
Going
think? What are your thoughts about that?
the one of the reasons I like watching the playoffs is the playoffs expose or show you rather who are the real contenders compared to the pretenders. And with the playoffs this year, it's going to be really interesting in both the West and Eastern conferences because there are so many contenders and there are a lot more contenders this year in the East than there are in the West. But overall, together, there's so many contenders. You have the Warriors, you have the Suns, the Memphis Grizzlies are a surprise team. Um, Magic Johnson was on First Take, and just the other day he mentioned keep your eyes open on the Dallas Mavericks. He said he likes what he's seeing from there. So they could possibly be a contender. I don't know if they're ready for that yet. I think they might be a year or two away from that. But who knows? Let's see how they look in the playoffs. And then in the Eastern Conference, we know the big four. You have the Bucks, the Heat, the 76ers, the Boston Celtics, and I'll throw in the Brooklyn Nets as well. You have those basketball teams. Those are the top five teams in the league that a lot of people feel have a chance of winning the East. The Boston Celtics, I know they're missing Robert Williams, Time Lord, who was a very important player for them. He, unfortunately, tore his meniscus in his knee, so that's going to require surgery. And some people are expecting him to come right back, but if he does manage to come right back in the playoffs, he's going to be rusty because he hasn't played basketball in a while after coming back off the injury. And I remember what Shaq was saying, Shaquille O'Neal, he was saying that the only way you can get into basketball shape is by playing basketball. You can't get on the elliptical or the treadmill. That's not going to work. So the Celtics are going to have to see what version of Robert Williams they get. And another thing people have to take into account or in mind is Robert Williams is a big man who relies heavily on athleticism. So having a surgery like that may slow him down. But come the playoffs, teams are gonna. It's gonna be interesting to see what teams are contenders and who are pretenders, because in the regular season there are. I noticed in the regular season from the years I've been watching basketball, there are plenty of teams that look like contenders in the regular season, but then you watch them in the postseason, they don't look like the same team. Like for example, the Clippers 2 years ago, they looked like contenders when they were in the bubble, but they were more pretenders, and they ended up losing, and it wasn't the same team. Now last year, the Clippers they did redeem themselves. They came inches away from making the finals, but they lost to the eventual Western Conference champions in the Phoenix Suns, which is no shame in that. There was no Kawhi Leonard. It was Paul George by himself. They lost in a very close game to the Phoenix Suns. Now one of the teams this year that some people believe or still believe in actually is the Utah Jazz, but I don't see it with the Utah Jazz because as Rudy Gobert, their star defensive big man, has said multiple times in interviews that their team is trying to figure out how to hold leads because the Utah Jazz, excuse me, they're a really good defensive and offensive team. Their problem is keeping leads, and if you can't hold a lead, that's going to result in them having a first round exit, which would be disappointing for their franchise. So you got to be able to hold leads in this in the to win the playoff series and possibly advance to the Western Conference Finals. The Golden State Warriors this year, um, I still believe they're contenders, but health to me might stop them from making it to the finals this year, because Stephen Curry, we know he's out with his foot. Hopefully he makes a speedy recovery, and then Draymond Green, he's come back from his injury, but from the games I'm watching, Draymond doesn't look like himself. So it's looking more like he rushed back, which I don't think he should have if he did, because he does not look like himself. And Draymond had a very serious back and calf injury he was dealing with. So and the Warriors, they're struggling, which I would expect without Stephen Curry. But Draymond basically looks like he's on one leg out there. He doesn't look like himself. And Klay Thompson. And for the people who are criticizing Klay Thompson, he just came back off he had a torn ACL, and then he tore his Achilles tendon off the bone. So Klay has missed basically 2 full years of basketball. So he's gonna have his moments where he looks like the old Klay Thompson, and he's not. But like I've been hearing from other people on different networks, it's going to take Klay Thompson a year. So probably next year, or maybe next year he'll be the Klay Thompson we all are used to seeing. But as of right now, he's gonna have his moments where he's up and down. But another key that I think could affect the Warriors from winning the title, not just health, is they don't have a big man. And one of the things I was thinking about is if they face the Phoenix Suns is you need a big man, because what's going to stop DeAndre Ayton from getting to the basket? Because the Phoenix Suns, they see their mistake that they made last year. It was just DeAndre Ayton on Giannis, so they ended up losing. So this year they fixed it. They added JaVale McGee, who was an excellent backup for the Lakers, who helped them win their championship 2 seasons ago. And they also added another big man who I wanted the Miami Heat to pick up, but he was what actually ended up happening was, I believe JaVale McGee was in protocols and they needed another big man. So the Phoenix Suns gave Bismack Biyombo a 10-day contract, which turned out it worked pretty well for them, and the Phoenix Suns have kept him for the rest of the year. So now they have depth at the big man position. Now they have DeAndre Ayton, JaVale McGee, and Bismack Biyombo. So there are no holes in the middle when it comes to the Phoenix Suns. They have rim protection, and they have great guys who can guard the perimeter, and Crowder and Mikal Bridges and Chris Paul. So the Phoenix, they look like a complete basketball team. Now for the Milwaukee Bucks, their offense has looked really well this year, but their defense has struggled. Right now, I believe they're 8th or 9th in defense, and that might come back to hurt them in the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe they'll turn it up in they'll fix their defense and be able to flip the switch in the playoffs. But as of right now, it has hurt the Milwaukee Bucks this year. Their defense.
Okay, so really quickly, the next couple of questions. Why do you feel teams try to copy the playoff style? Not the playoffs. Try to copy the Warriors style of play. Really quickly.
I feel teams are trying to copy the Warriors style of play because a lot of teams, because the NBA, Draymond actually said this on his podcast recently. And Bradley Beal as well. The NBA is a copycat league. So if one formula or one style of play works for one team, other teams try to copy it, and they feel, oh, well, you know what? And that worked for the Golden State Warriors, and they'll try it. Like small ball worked for the Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr used a lot of small ball in his system when he first got to Golden State. So that worked for them. But one of the reasons small ball works for the Golden State Warriors is not only because they have Steve Kerr, but also they have the personnel to go small ball, and so many teams don't have that. They try to copy it, and it doesn't work for them. So what I would suggest for those teams is use the style of play that works best for you instead of trying to copy the Golden State Warriors like the Lakers. The Lakers, when they won the championship in the bubble, a lot of people criticized them and said, well, why you have two traditional centers in JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard? Why are you not trying to, go small ball? Just have Anthony Davis as your five. And the Lakers didn't listen to that, and they kept that, and they managed to win the championship. So the Lakers, they used the style of play that worked for them. Now, I'm not saying they didn't use AD at the five at times when they went small ball, which they did. But it was certain times they used small ball. For the most part, they used their big man lineup. And they managed to beat a lot of teams by out rebounding them, by crashing the boards, grabbing a whole bunch of rebounds, and they got a whole bunch of putback dunks that helped them win games. My suggestion I was saying is for other teams, use the style of play that works for them. Don't try to copy the Golden State Warriors.
Okay. Next question. Why aren't there enough backup centers? Really quickly.
There are some centers in the league who are, or out of the league, as I should say, who are free agents that teams aren't signing, but there are plenty of teams that can use a backup center. Like, there are plenty, like the Golden State Warriors I just mentioned, they can use a backup center. See, Phoenix was smart. They signed JaVale, and then they gave Bismack Biyombo a try. That's something the Warriors should have did with Bismack instead of, standing pat. Their general manager could have traded for or gotten Robin Lopez, who is currently on Orlando Magic on the team that's not going anywhere. So the Warriors, in my opinion, should have traded for him because they wouldn't be in a desperate need right now for a big man.
Okay.
That was the main team I was thinking about when it comes to that.
Okay, and the last question, really quickly, the Lakers. Why do you think they've had so many bad seasons since LeBron's been there?
Well, not since LeBron's been there, but the Lakers prior to LeBron getting there, their team was one of the worst teams in the league, actually. And the main reason for that was the late great Kobe Bryant was he had so many injuries he had battled throughout his career. He was no longer the same player he was in 2010. Once the years turned to 2014 and 15. And all those injuries took a toll, unfortunately, on his body. So the Lakers are never the same basketball team. So fast forward a few years later, they ended up signing LeBron in free agency, and they became a better team, and they became watchable again. It was due to once Kobe before I get to that, once Kobe retired, the Lakers started just drafting and developing their young players. So when you draft and you develop your young players, they're not gonna win a lot of games because they're young. So they're gonna make mistakes, like they're gonna turn the ball over, then they're gonna mess up on defensive rotations. It's a part of being young players because they're still learning the league.
Right. Basically, what I want to say really quickly is not so much since LeBron's got there, but just in general, it seems like the front office is not really working out. This doesn't seem like what their goal is really working for the Lakers as of right now, and you can speak on that a little bit also. Because I believe that LeBron is doing all he can, you know. I think a lot of it falls on the front office and who they're picking, and if they're working alongside, if they're working all together in one accord, or if they're just deciding to do things on their own.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying that, LeBron does deserve part of the blame for the roster. That is correct. I agree with it, but it's part of it. I'm not giving him the whole thing because when they were putting this team together this year, I noticed that they went guard heavy, And I was thinking to myself, why do they have nine? It was 8 or 9 different guards, and I was thinking, come to playoffs, you're gonna need more wings. You're gonna need more wing guys who are wing defenders, like Trevor Ariza. To me, his ankle injury, I believe it was he had, or was it his shoulder, has seemed to mess him up because he doesn't look like the Trevor Ariza I saw last year for the Miami Heat. Now, Trevor Ariza in his younger years could play excellent defense, but he played pretty well last year for the Miami Heat. So I was thinking that the Lakers should have picked up more guys like that. I noticed coming into the year, they had Austin Reeves, they had THT, they had Rondo, they had Westbrook, and I was like, okay, these are too many. And Kendrick Nunn at the time, I was like, wow, these are too many guards that we have here. We need some more wing defenders because LeBron's getting older. We can't ask LeBron to play 30 plus minutes a night, have to score 30 and play defense because he's older now, so it's harder for him to play. LeBron can still play defense, but he can play it in stretches. He can't do it as long as he used to in his younger years. Now, I was suggesting there were plenty of forwards they could have signed or gotten who were free agents at the time. The Trevor Ariza move at the time, I thought it was a pretty good move, but there were plenty of other guys they could have signed. There was guys like who played for the Phoenix Suns last year. He's back on their team. The Suns had traded for him. Torrey Craig, he was the guy they could have signed. There were guys like Justin Holiday the Lakers could have gone after. There were guys like excuse me, as I was saying, it was Torrey Craig, Justin Holiday. Those are 2 players, just to name a few. There were guys like Harrison Barnes, who would have been another excellent player for the Lakers that they could have gone after. So there were so many like wing defenders that the Lakers could have signed, and I was wondering like, okay, they're letting these guys sign into different teams, and I was thinking to myself, well, even Lance Stevenson, he's back on the Pacers. Happy for Lance. He's another guy who could have helped the Lakers. He's really good defensively, and the Lakers and James Johnson, who's on the Brooklyn Nets, would have been another good player to sign. And I was looking at the Lakers thinking like, wow, I mean, they have signed so many guards, and not just guards, but a lot of these guards they signed were undersized. So having too many undersized guards was going to affect their defense. I thought Anthony Davis and Dwight could help anchor at least the paint when it comes to the defense. But on the perimeter, I thought the Lakers are going to lack that defensively because like I said, you can't have too many undersized guards on there. Taller players like a Paul George are going to take advantage of that and get to the basket easily. So I believe the Lakers, they missed guys like Markieff Morris from a year ago who really helped them. Alex Caruso, who was let go for some weird or strange reason. Alex Caruso was let go. Markieff Morris, Marcus Morris is on the Clippers, but Markieff, they miss guys like that. Wesley Matthews, those guys were key wing defenders for them, and the Lakers for some reason just let them go, and I don't understand why they did that.
Okay, so I mean that was a good take on these questions. Guys, we would just like to thank you for joining us on this channel, this episode, this segment. We just pray that everyone has an excellent day and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe if you can. Thank you.